Welcome to Future Forward Reports, the podcast where global insights meet executive action. Today, we explore Gartner's latest outlook. Top 10 emerging technologies every C-level leader should watch. These aren't distant trends. They're the innovations already reshaping risk, strategy, and growth. Let's dive in.
Okay, let's dive right into Gartner's perspective on these top emerging technologies C-suite executives really need to keep a close eye on.
Yeah, we've got insights here, mainly from a recent Gartner webinar. And it's all about how these techs hit strategic planning, business model innovation.
And competitive risk, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Our mission today is, well, to kind of strip away the deep technical stuff.
Get straight to the business implications.
Precisely. Give you that clear executive level briefing on, what disruption might be coming down the pike.
And Gartner kicks off with a pretty bold statement, don't they, about disruption?
They do. Their key strategic planning assumption is, well, they predict that by 2028, just one new emerging tech.
Even one that looks like a weak signal now.
Yeah, even a weak signal one could seriously disrupt existing business models. That's not far off.
It really isn't. And it lines up with the data they shared showing, 77% of C-suite leaders are already deep into tech innovation.
Right, so it confirms this isn't just an IT issue anymore. It's core leadership.
Absolutely. So this deep dive is really geared towards supporting that C-suite involvement, focusing on the trends that, actually impact the top and bottom lines.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
We'll walk through several of Gartner's top technologies, but always through that business lens, the so what, for strategy, for competition.
Okay. What's the impact, the opportunities, and what Gartner thinks you should be doing now?
Exactly.
All right, let's kick off with number one on their list, or at least a major cluster. Smart spaces, ambient intelligence, edge, AI. What's the core idea here for a business leader?
At its heart, it's really about embedding intelligence into the physical world, making environments responsive.
So putting AI and compute power directly into, say, factories, buildings, devices.
Exactly. It's about creating spaces that sort of understand and react, often without you explicitly telling them to. Think smart reactive environments.
So more than just a smart thermostat, it's the whole environment acting intelligently.
Yes. And the business value, Gartner says, really pops up at that intersection of physical things, people, and your company's operations.
Makes sense. And they highlighted specific industries.
Yeah, very much focused on the more physical industries, manufacturing, transport, supply chain, healthcare, heavy equipment, buildings, plants. You get the idea.
Right. Enabling things like smart connected operations or even genuinely smart connected products.
Precisely.
I can see the potential. Some of the use cases sound game-changing. Autonomous tools in risky areas.
Or intelligent buildings, managing their own energy based on who's actually inside.
Real-time optimization.
Exactly. Or extending human precision on assembly lines with AI-guided robotics. Maybe a logistics hub that reroutes shipments automatically based on sensor data.
Okay, so from autonomous vehicles to smart retail, even dark factories.
Yeah, Gartner sees it evolving from these specific smart spaces towards a more pervasive ambient intelligence.
And timeline-wise, Gartner's hype cycle suggests this isn't just theory anymore.
No, they put ambient intelligence and edge AI maybe 5 years or so from the plateau of productivity. It's actively maturing.
So what should executives be doing now? What are the recommendations?
Gartner's advice is pretty grounded. First, figure out where local edge data processing really adds value to your specific services or products.
Identify those high-impact use cases.
Right. Then, build a clear vision, a long-term strategy. You need to get your IT and OT operational technology teams aligned and working together.
IT-OT alignment, that's crucial.
Absolutely. And think beyond just small pilots. Plan for larger scenarios.
Yeah.
Invest in scalable IoT platforms. Interoperability is key.
Making sure different devices and systems can actually talk to each other.
Yes, and build out the network infrastructure to handle edge computing. And, critically, you need the data foundation.
The data lake for training the AI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sensor data, actuator data, metadata. You need that fuel to train the models that make these spaces smart.
Okay, so the strategic relevance is huge. Operational efficiency, new business models like intelligent building services, better safety, competitive edge through data.
But it requires that long-term view, serious investment, and that integrated IT/OT planning. It's not trivial.
Definitely not. Okay, let's shift gears. Next up from Gartner, conversational AI or CAI.
Right, CAI.
We all know chatbots, some good, some less so. What's the C-suite angle Gartner's pushing here?
It's really about going way beyond those simple Q&A bots. For business leaders, CAI is about using natural language voice or text to fundamentally upgrade user experiences
Upgrade how?
by automating complex tasks, providing really intelligent, maybe even proactive customer service. It's about making interactions feel more fluid, more human, less robotic.
Okay. And the big business wins Gartner sees.
Yeah. They talk about three main benefits. First, automation. More automated dynamic decision-making and processes, cutting costs and human error.
Less manual work, more efficient processes.
Second, augmentation. Boosting the speed and quality of human decisions by giving people better context-aware support. Think AI co-pilots.
Helping people do their jobs better and faster.
And third, contextualization. Applications adapting automatically to the user or the situation, creating really personalized experiences.
Those sound like direct hits on efficiency and experience. But what are the catches? The challenges?
Well, a big one is that these intelligent apps learn rather than being explicitly programmed step by step.
Yeah.
That can make them a bit opaque.
Hard to know why they made a certain recommendation or decision?
Sometimes, yes. And their smarts are totally dependent on the training data quality. Plus, you introduce new risks, especially in areas like finance. You need strong internal controls around automated decisions.
Right. Managing the risks is key. The opportunities seem huge, though proactive, tailored experiences everywhere. And Gartner's planning assumptions here are quite something.
They really are eye-opening. Like by 2028, they expect 85% of B2B companies will use AI to augment at least one key sales process. That's up massively from about 40% recently.
85%? Wow.
And by 2026, 30% of new apps using AI for adaptive UIs, over 80% of software vendors embedding Gen AI.
And almost half of marketing messages being synthetically generated.
Yeah, by 2026 for large orgs, it paints a picture of incredibly fast adoption.
So, with that speed, what's the C-suite recommendation? How do you harness this?
Gartner suggests, first, create a solid roadmap for bringing intelligent apps into the business.
Have a plan.
Yes. And importantly, encourage your people to explore and experiment with these tools. Give them resources, let them learn safely.
Empower the workforce.
And don't try to build one giant general AI. Focus investment on specialized, domain-specific applications that solve specific high-value problems really well.
Laser focus. Okay, the strategic relevance is clear. Customer engagement, operations, sales, marketing, even how software gets built, but needs careful thought on integration, data, and risk.
Absolutely. Now, moving to something maybe a bit more future-forward, number 5, neuromorphic computing.
Neuromorphic computing. Okay, mimicking the brain's structure. What's the business takeaway here? It sounds very technical.
The key concept for leaders is that this is a potential fundamental shift in hardware designed specifically to handle the massive AI workloads we're seeing. It processes information differently, inspired by neural networks.
Brain-inspired chips. What are the practical advantages for a business?
The really big ones are significantly lower power consumption and much lower latency, faster processing compared to current GPUs used for AI.
Less power, faster speeds. Where does that help most?
It makes it really well suited for analyzing real-time continuous data streams. Think video analysis, complex sensor data processing right at the edge.
Okay.
It could also lead to more resilient systems, better at spotting anomalies or adapting to threats, and better at optimizing really complex processes with tons of variables.
So enabling more powerful, more efficient AI, especially out where the data is generated.
At the edge.
Exactly. And Gartner's projections, things like these chips appearing in smart home devices, needing better edge management, suggest this is moving towards being viable in, say, the next 5 years. They think it could genuinely revolutionize AI compute.
5 years. Still horizon scanning, but important. What should executives do now?
The advice is mostly about monitoring and early engagement. Talk to researchers, universities, startups in the NC space.
Keep tabs on the research. Yes, and explore potential use cases in your business where that low power, low latency, or specific AI scalability would be a game changer compared to what you can do now.
Find the niche where it offers a real advantage.
And share this with your tech teams. See if it aligns with things they're already thinking about or initiatives underway.
So strategically, it's not about deploying today, but understanding this hardware shift could change the economics and capability of AI tomorrow, especially at the edge. Keeping informed is key for future advantage.
Definitely. Okay, number 6, quantum computing, QC. This one always gets attention.
Quantum computing, yeah. Using quantum mechanics for problems classical computers just choke on. How does Gartner frame this for the C-suite?
The key business point is its potential to solve certain specific, highly complex problems exponentially faster. Not everything, but specific types of problems.
And the impact of that speed.
Gartner sees it potentially causing major competitive shifts, maybe creating new markets entirely, and forcing some industries to completely rethink their strategic direction. Think super complex financial modeling or entirely new AI insights.
Okay, but what kinds of problems are we talking about? Where is QC strongest?
Gartner highlights simulations like molecular interactions for drug discovery or designing new materials. That's a big one.
Pharma, materials science.
Right. Also optimization problems. Think massively complex logistics, fleet routing, maybe production scheduling. It could find better solutions faster.
Optimization, okay.
And maybe even improving analysis of classical data using quantum algorithms for better classification. But Gartner stresses focusing on use cases with a plausible, even if long-term, path to ROI.
It still feels like QC is quite a ways off from mainstream business use, though. What are Gartner's timelines?
Yeah, it's longer term. They project that by 2030, most enterprise access will be via quantum computing as a service, QSIS.
Cloud-based. Accessing it through the cloud, not owning the hardware.
It's exactly. Used by over 75% of companies engaging with it by then. They see potential across finance, pharma, manufacturing, energy, aerospace.
Wide range of industries.
Yes, for optimization, simulation, ML, solving those really intractable problems. But timelines vary. Optimization might show value sooner. Complex simulations are further out.
So cloud access, still years away, but potentially transformative for certain niches. What's the C-suite advice on QC?
Prepare now for eventual integration. Think about talent needs, infrastructure adjustments, even for cloud access.
Start thinking about skills and integration.
Yes. Companies in potentially affected industries need to start assessing, where is QC development relevant to your use cases? Understand the chances, the risks.
Assess your industry's exposure.
And plan for long implementation times. Using quantum insights might require adapting business operations, maybe even business models, and allocate some R&D funds.
Specific budget for exploring QC. And they had that start, stop, sustain advice too.
They did. Start developing use case templates tied to potential business advantage. Position for government funding. Stop over-investing in big internal teams or trying to build it all yourself.
Leverage the ecosystem.
Right? And sustain engagement by focusing on QCAS, planning for hybrid workflows, quantum feeding into classical systems.
It's important to remember the caveats too, right?
Yeah.
QC won't replace classical computers. Stability and scaling are huge hurdles.
And there aren't really established broad business use cases yet.
Okay, so strategically, it's a potential game changer, long horizon. Requires early R&D, focus on QC, planning for potentially massive shifts later. Future-proofing, basically.
Exactly. Preparing for that potential disruption down the line.
All right, number 7, small language models. SLMs, after all the hype about LLMs, why focus on the small ones?
Well, the core idea for business is that these SLMs are significantly smaller, which makes them much more cost-efficient to train and, crucially, to run compared to the giant LLMs.
Smaller means cheaper and more flexible.
That's the key. That scale difference unlocks deployment flexibility and specialization that's often hard or expensive with massive models.
So what are the big advantages of small there?
Cost effectiveness is huge. They need way less compute power. That makes it feasible to run them on-device, on your own premises, or in a private cloud.
Deployments that might be too costly or sensitive for big public cloud LLMs?
Precisely. And while you might need more technical effort to customize them compared to just prompting an LLM, they are more tunable for specific tasks.
More control.
Yes, and that smaller size makes it economically and technically viable to really specialize them for a specific domain or task. You get much tighter control over inputs and outputs.
That sounds like it directly tackles some major business worries about AI, especially data privacy and security.
It absolutely does. Gartner points out SLMs help address those concerns because you can run them on-prem or privately. That's massive for regulated industries or anyone with sensitive data.
So a more controllable, efficient, privacy-friendly way to get AI language capabilities working inside your organization.
Exactly. Think high-volume interactions where cost matters, or building specialized organizational language models trained just on your company's stuff.
And planning-wise, Gartner mentioned lower running costs, even if setup needs more skill.
Right. The operational expenditure can be much lower due to efficiency, even if the initial investment or skills requirement is a bit higher than using an off-the-shelf LLM.
And the recommendation, look at open source.
Yes, leverage existing open-source SLMs, especially domain-specific ones. Don't necessarily try to build one from scratch unless you have a very unique need.
Okay, so strategically, SLMs offer a practical, cost-controlled, governance-friendly path for specific AI language tasks, key for scaling AI responsibly.
Makes sense. Okay, moving on to number 8, spatial computing.
Spatial computing. Yeah, this makes me think VRR headsets, Apple Vision Pro, but
Yeah.
Gartner's view is broader.
Yes, much broader. The core business concept they highlight is really about blending the digital and physical worlds into one interactive space.
Moving beyond screens.
Exactly. Anchoring digital information data, instructions, virtual objects directly onto your physical environment and letting you interact with it there.
How does Gartner see that impacting businesses specifically?
They talk about imperatives, like establishing a foothold early could create new revenue, maybe by building an ecosystem of partners for spatial content or services.
Being an early mover in that space.
Yes. You also need to define and promote spatial efforts across your company. And critically, because you're layering digital onto the real world, data privacy and ethics are paramount.
Protecting customer, employee data is crucial. What holds it back right now?
Gartner notes it relies on several other techs converging AI, networking, hardware, sensors. They're all maturing at different speeds, and they need to sync up for spatial computing to really deliver for business.
So its progress depends partly on other trends we've discussed.
To some extent, yes. So the C-suite recommendations are prioritize use cases that actually extend what your products or services can do.
Focus on real utility.
Invest in the needed infrastructure, maybe better Wi-Fi, compatible devices, collaborate with vendors who have experience, and again, hammer on data privacy and security.
Stay on top of the trends.
Yeah, keep learning to leverage the potential and stay ahead.
Okay, strategic relevance. New ways for people to interact with digital stuff in a physical context. Could mean new customer experiences, better operations like hands-free instructions, maybe new spatial services, but needs infrastructure, partners, and strong ethics.
Exactly. Next, number 9, synthetic data.
Synthetic data, making artificial data. Why is that so important when we seem to have so much real data?
That's the paradox, right? The core concept is generating artificial data that mimics real data to complement or replace it. And it's crucial because real data often has big limits.
Like what?
Security rules, compliance, privacy laws making it unusable. Or sometimes you just don't have enough real data, especially for training AI on rare situations or edge cases.
So you create fake but realistic data to fill those gaps and avoid the limitations.
Exactly. And the business impact is potentially massive. Think cost and speed. Often way cheaper and faster than getting and prepping real data.
Faster, cheaper data for AI.
Performance. You could generate more diverse data, especially for those rare edge cases, which leads to better, more robust AI models.
Better models.
Innovation. It lets you explore use cases where real data just doesn't exist or you can't access it. And fairness. You can generate balanced data sets to help fight biases found in real-world data.
And Gartner's prediction about its future importance was striking.
Really striking. They predict by 2030, synthetic data will make up over 90% of the data used for those difficult edge case scenarios in AI training, up from maybe 5% now.
90%, that's a huge shift.
And synthetic structured data growing 3 times faster than real structured data for AI training. It's becoming fundamental.
Wow. So what are the concrete uses today?
Things like system testing, especially for new systems with no live data. Training ML models when real data is biased or incomplete. Creating analytic sandboxes safe, private environments for data exploration.
And protecting privacy.
Definitely. Using it when real data can't be shared or moved, or for building product demos without exposing sensitive info.
It sounds like a critical enabler for doing AI at scale safely. What should C-suite leaders do?
Gartner says, embrace it, especially to overcome data security and compliance hurdles blocking AI adoption, like in software testing. Explore where it fits in your industry if you use ML or test software heavily.
Look for applications.
And get ready for the future. Understand its capabilities, build it into your AI and Gen AI strategies now.
Strategic relevance is crystal clear. Critical for scaling AML, breaking data bottlenecks, managing privacy, huge impact on innovation speed, model quality, responsible AI, essential for future data strategy.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, finally, number 10, blockchain tokenization. The source heading mentions data security, but the discussion is broader. asset-focused.
Right, tokenization. Turning assets into digital tokens on a blockchain. What's the core business idea?
It's about creating unique, verifiable digital representations, tokens for assets, digital or physical. This lets companies track, manage, and trade these assets more efficiently and securely.
Beyond just cryptocurrency.
Way beyond. It allows assets to be programmable, think automated actions, and even fractionalized. Multiple owners for one asset.
Okay, what's the real business impact Gartner sees?
Right now, primarily in financial assets, money, digital goods, consumer products. It improves asset lifecycle management, reduces friction in intermediaries in payments and transactions,
Makes things smoother, cheaper.
and enables totally new revenue streams or business models based on these digital, programmable, easily transferable assets.
And the market's growing fast.
Rapidly. Projected to go from under $3 billion in 2023 to nearly $10 billion by 2030. That's significant growth.
So unlocking new ways to represent and exchange value digitally,
Right.
leading to efficiency and new opportunities.
Exactly. Use cases are popping up everywhere. Finance for liquidity, tokenized currencies for payments, NFTs and consumer goods, with hype caveats, real estate, healthcare, sports.
And Gartner's advice for product leaders in this space.
Pursue the opportunities, especially in financial assets where it's scaling, but be realistic about near-term hurdles. Explore NFTs for new revenue, but focus on value-centric use cases that can actually scale.
Find real value, not just hype. And Gartner had a broader recommendation here too.
Yeah, it was listed under tokenization, but applies across the board. C-suite needs to set strategic investment priorities based on which emerging techs are most relevant to their specific business context.
Prepare for transformation, embrace disruption when it comes.
Exactly, and this really ties back to the bigger picture Gartner presents with their impact radars and hype cycles.
Right, those charts showing lots of technologies, their impact potential, their maturity.
Yeah, the 8 or so we dove into are just part of that much larger landscape that needs monitoring.
And a key point is they're interconnected, right?
Mhm.
Edge AI enables smart spaces, synthetic data improves AI, neuromorphic could speed up AI.
They reinforce each other. Understanding those connections is vital for seeing the bigger strategic shifts.
Ultimately, successful strategy and managing risk ahead means understanding the disruption and opportunity these technologies bring, being proactive.
Couldn't have said it better.
So, wrapping this up, Gartner highlights this critical set of emerging technologies C-suite leaders simply have to track. They hit strategy, business models, competitive risk directly.
The call to action is clear. Prioritize investment wisely, prepare for change, and be ready to act when innovations mature or disruptions hit.
It's about seeing these not just as tech trends, but as forces shaping your business future.
Having that business impact lens firmly in place.
Which leads to that final thought, drawing from Gartner's own prediction. If by 2028, a weak signal tech could disrupt business models, are you looking beyond just today's big headlines? Are you scanning that horizon for the next, maybe less obvious game changer for your specific industry?
You've been listening to Future Forward reports highlighting key insights from Gartner's emerging tech forecast. If you want to stay ahead of disruption, not behind it, follow us for more executive briefings powered by data and strategy. Until next time, stay future ready.